Welcome everybody, my name is Josh Rivers, and today we are recapping RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 3, Episode 4, All-Stars Snatch Game. So, I think we should immediately go into the note. The note. So, Thorgy left a note for Trixie that talked shit on Shangela, and Trixie decided to hang it up, and Shangela saw it and was pressed. And she had a right to be pressed, you know. She saw something that was not very kind to her. She wasn't okay with it, and I see her point of view. Trixie should not have hung it up. But I don't think Trixie's hanging up the note was a malicious attack towards Shangela. I don't think it had anything to do with Shangela. It was just, hey, I'm going to hang up a note. She didn't even think about it. So I really do think it's Trixie just having a lapse of judgment and not really taking into account what the note says. And Shangela's aiming her anger towards Trixie instead of towards Thorgy, who wrote the note. I don't think Trixie has any ill feelings towards Shangela. Or if she does, at this point in the competition, obviously this is post me watching it, she can't really express them at this point. If what went down later in the episode didn't go down, we would not have seen that note. That note, when you really look at it, that scene of like the note is so out of place for Drag Race. It's something that we would not usually see. And it's only because it's keeping up the story of the storyline of Trixie and Shangela butting heads. And this is all hindsight 2020 at this point. It's like, oh, it's because I seen the full episode that I see the signs now. But Shangela should have put her anger towards Thorgy, and Trixie should not have hung up that note, or at least removed the particular stuff about Shangela, or just fold it in half. It's not that hard. But let's get into the challenge that is Snatch Game. So I'm going to go through each queen. I'm also going to go over their runway as well. Just want to say, runway wise, I'm really upset that we don't get the full runway. These looks, out of most runways, this is a knockout for every queen. Every queen did really well on this runway. We should have got the full presentation of this runway. I don't understand why the first 3 episodes were an hour and a half and this one isn't. It really could have benefited. It could have benefited for having a longer Snatch Game in general and also a full runway. I really do think they kind of skimped on it and we did miss out on a lot. A lot of it was the drama instead of the challenge, which really dictates who goes home and who stays. This episode should have had more screen time. It's a big challenge. It's a Snatch Game. An hour and a half episode would have worked. The first 3 episodes were an hour and a half. Now, the Snatch Game, flip side of the runway, was not good. This was not a good Snatch Game. Like, the queens that did really well, but the queens that did bad, did really bad. Even the middle of the road queens would have been in the bottom on other seasons. Like, this was a really bad Snatch Game overall. Entertaining as hell. Don't get it twisted. Don't mean I'm not having a good time watching this, but it just overall was not the best. And part of that is queen number 1, Trixie, as RuPaul. Trixie has done this character before. A lot. We've seen it. It's been funny. I just don't think it worked for Snatch Game. It didn't lead up to it. And also her little bits and her little lines didn't really match up with what was being said. It was completely different. And I think that's kind of the main, I think a lot of people fell with that, where they were saying things that fit the character, but don't actually line up with anything Ru is saying or even the prompt they're given. So a lot of them just fell out, and Trixie was one of them. And we've seen this character work for Trixie before. We've seen Trixie be RuPaul, and it's funny, but it's always just normal Trixie talking, RuPaul, and then more Trixie talking again. It's never all RuPaul constantly. And I think that was the downfall, is that we like little bursts of RuPaul. We like a taste, not a swallow, is basically what I'm saying. Today we swallowed, and we're not opposed to swallowing, but today it was hard to swallow. And on the runway, Trixie was the most, as in she definitely had the most flowers. She was covered in flowers everywhere. And I feel like every single element on her is horrible. And that's why I like it. Like, those boots are disgusting. I don't like that jacket. Parasol is just way too much. And it just works. It just works. It works because it's all together. It also really fits Trixie. And it's just very over the top and is very much the flower power. Oh, I don't think I mentioned that this week's runway is flower power. So flowers, that's the theme. Easy to go with. And they went with it. But Trixie's runway overall is actually really great. It's super cute, takes a lot of inspirations from vintage fashion, also Japanese fashion, and just looks really good on her. So next up we have Kennedy Davenport, who played Phaedra Parks. I am not someone that's familiar with the Housewives, and I'm not ashamed of that. But of the Housewives, Atlanta is the one I'm most familiar with. And funnily enough, I've heard a lot of clips of Housewives and Phaedra on podcasts before, but I haven't actually seen a lot of clips of the show. So I have a more audible understanding of who Phaedra is compared to a visual understanding of who Phaedra is. So I just had to take people's word that Kennedy looks good as Phaedra. From what I can hear, from what I can tell, that's what people are saying. So I'm just gonna go with that she looks like the bish. But I felt like she was doing a good job of portraying who Phaedra is, from my understanding. But what she was saying, again, didn't really align with what was being asked. And I feel like she was doing the character well, but not doing a good job of putting up front what makes that character funny. So I think she just kind of blended in, hid in the background. I feel like there are a lot of less missteps with Kennedy, as in she didn't suck the humor out of everything like other people, but she still didn't do well at all. On the runway, she wore a black dress with cascading sunflowers over it, and I thought this was gorgeous. The one thing I didn't like, and this may contradict what I've said about Kennedy before, but I did not need that like stalk or stem or grass, whatever it was, coming out of her head. Because it wasn't showcased a lot. It was actually hard to see. And it just kind of made her look like a pineapple. But it didn't extend her. It didn't really exaggerate anything. It was just kind of some plants on her head that really didn't add anything to the flower power element. It's like what she was doing on her body, especially what she was doing on her face. I loved what she did on her face. That was enough. She didn't need to look like a pineapple on top of her head, because that wasn't hair, it wasn't representing hair. It was just looked like a field on top of her head. But every other element worked really well with her outfit. Next up is Ben de la Creme, who did Paul Lynde, a character that I'm not particularly familiar with, other than every time VH1 did a I Love the 70s and talked about Hollywood Squares. Like, that's the only time I really seen Paul Lynde. But what is genius about this is that Ben is playing a character from 70s game shows in a parody of a 70s game show. It just makes her process more effortless. She knows how the character speaks and knows how a character responds to prompts like this. It just works. It just makes it so easy, and it was just quick-witted, super fast, and just made it so simple for Ben to annihilate this competition. Now, I have seen people a little upset that Ben is playing a male character, which I don't really have a problem with. I never really had a problem with that before. All I had to say is, if it entertains you, if it makes you laugh, it's worth it. It's worth the risk. Yes, it's a risk. But if they're an extravagant personality, then it works. But if they're boring, that's never going to work. But it's also never going to work with a boring female character either. I just think what Ben did here was pretty genius and just really showcasing why Ben is really at the top right now. On the runway, this seems like a very traditional Ben silhouette to me. Like, we've seen a lot of dresses like this with Ben before, I feel. But what I do like about it is that the dress itself looks like a flower. Yes, it has flowers put onto it like the other girls, but the entire dress itself is supposed to be very floral and represent a flower. And I think that's a very smart choice as well. And I don't like the butterflies. I'm just gonna be honest. I thought I liked the butterflies for a second, but I don't like them. I wish they were a different color, and I wish they weren't transparent so they weren't like hiding in the hair. Because it just makes it look darker, and the dark tone on top of the head isn't really balancing anything out. It's just more dark tone on top of dark hair. But besides that, it's a great look. Okay, next up, oh, this one's gonna hurt. Next up is Chi-Chi DeVayne, who did Maya Angelou, and it's very clear that she did no research on Maya Angelou. She didn't really try to do Maya Angelou. Her voice is basically her Eartha Kitt voice. To a T. Like, it's basically the exact same voice, but without actively trying to be a cat. I lived for her Eartha Kitt before because I thought that was so funny. This time it doesn't work because there's nothing interesting going on. She's not really making jokes about anything. She doesn't really have any references to go off of. She didn't start like reading her cards as if it was a dramatic reading. One thing that I wanted when she introduced herself was to go like, I'm a poet, I'm an author, I'm a civil rights activist, and I'm a chef, I'm a licensed pilot. I just wanted her to just keep spouting things, because that was a thing Maya Angelou did, was like she would just list, she was a big name dropper. Maya Angelou was, she would just drop names like no one's business, and none of those elements were there. She didn't really convey the character at all. Instead of going for what she saw Maya Angelou as, she should have gone for what other people would portray Maya Angelou as, like Maya Rudolph or Coleman Domingo, who did Maya Angelou in drag on the Big Gay Sketch Show, and it was hilarious. It was really fucking good. If you have not seen those clips, you need to go watch the Craigslist ads read by Maya Angelou. She could have just took those elements instead of even going after actual Maya Angelou. She should have just saw the other parodies of Maya Angelou, because Maya Angelou is a person that was parodied a lot because she was such a big presence no matter what, that it was easy to grasp onto things from her. If Chi-Chi didn't have the capabilities of doing that herself, she could have took it from comedians that have done it before her. Because this is not a character that has not been done before. It's almost at the level of like Cher. You have to do, if you're gonna do a character like Cher, you better be on top of it because it's been done so well before. And I think that's really where Chi-Chi's downfall was. Is like we have an understanding of who Maya Angelou, not like we may not even have an understanding of who Maya Angelou is, but we have an understanding of how people have made fun of Maya Angelou before. And I think that was where Chi-Chi really fell through. On the runway, though, Chi-Chi looked damn good. This is a great look. It's not really in your face with the flowers as much as I would like it to be, but she has flowers covering her titties, and that's what I need. I need some titties covered by flowers, and she delivered that, and she did that, and it looks good. It's just a good, clean look. The bottom half of her outfit, it's pretty simple, a little boring, but I think she makes up for it in her demeanor in the outfit, even though we get such a small little taste of what we could have seen in that runway. Next up is Shangela as Jennifer Lewis. I really only know Jennifer Lewis through Jennifer Lewis and Shangela videos, but Shangela was fucking hilarious. And the thing with that is, I feel like only half of the time she was Jennifer Lewis, or maybe they're just so in sync that they would say the exact same things, because half of the things that didn't relate to, like, I was on Broadway or menopause or something along those lines, it just seemed like something Shangela would just say outright anyways. It really does seem like Shangela really had a very easy character to portray, because it seems like things Shangela would say on the regular, just because Shangela is naturally a very funny person. And I just think this was opportune time for Shangela just to be really funny and upfront with that. I do think her personality was a bit more blunt and direct with her words than I think Shangela would be, but everything that came out of Shangela's mouth was gold and was extremely funny. On the runway, Shangela chose to portray the iconic pregnancy photos from Beyonce, and it's a great look. Also very, very smart to do a nude illusion, a nude pregnant illusion, and cover it all in a sheer material so it hides the illusion part of it, and it looks really good and really real. It looks really good. It definitely speaks on the flower power theme. I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like I would not have liked her to do a celebrity inspired look if it wasn't the Snatch Game runway. Which is weird to me, because I liked previous celebrity-inspired looks like Tatiana's T-Balls, even that wasn't a Snatch Game runway. But for some reason, in my head, I just like have a feeling like if it weren't the Snatch Game, I would not like it, because it's a celebrity look that's very much reminding me and making me think of this other idea. I don't like it when queens reference something and it takes me out of their fantasy, you know? It takes me out of that fantasy. I want to stay into their fantasy and not think about this other thing entirely, which this one somewhat makes me do. But I mean, it's a great look. I really wish we got to see more Shangela act pregnant on the runway. Like, that really sucks that it's cut so short. So next we have Anja portraying Crystal LaBeija, and this is just proof that she should have done this season 9, because this was so good. And she sounded and acted and looked just like Crystal did. Also, just a side note with Crystal LaBeija is I remember being really young and hearing about the Queen, about Crystal LaBeija this, Crystal LaBeija that. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to watch the Queen because it's all about Crystal LaBeija. Like, I really did think the entire film's about her. She's only at the end. I don't even think she's featured out of drag at any point in the film. It's only, which is the majority of the film, is a lot of the contestants in the pageant out of drag. And then she only shows up at the end. We only get her reading the house down in the backstage and just going off, which is truly a legendary moment. Like, if you have not seen that, at least watch that clip. I'm sure it's on YouTube. It's everything. And my favorite part about that reading is when she goes, the line everyone knows is, I didn't say you weren't beautiful, but you just weren't looking beautiful tonight. When she was clearly, for the first 2 minutes of her appearance, just calling Harlow not beautiful. Like, literally just saying she's just not beautiful. Just straight up. And then she goes, well, I didn't say you weren't beautiful, but she did say you weren't beautiful. Like, for a good long while. Also with that clip, I think Flawless Sabrina's a little bit underrated because she was pretty good in that clip. She was like, no, if you really want to get down and get the real tea, then you need to go to the judges and talk to them. I can set it up for you. I can have that done. I love Flawless Sabrina. Flawless Sabrina is a legend. So she deserves a lot of credit too. Flawless Sabrina is everything as well. But Aja's Crystal LaBeija is it. It really worked. It all was from the Queen, but of course, we as, you know, the drag culture really don't have a lot when it comes to Crystal LaBeija to work off of. It's basically all we have to work off with Crystal LaBeija. But it's such a big character and such a huge personality that it really does work here. And I loved it. It was really, really good. Aja on the runway was gorgeous. This is an amazing outfit. I love that. Yeah, you can see the elements of flower, but the entire thing is flower petals itself. And I just think that's so smart, so cool. Gives a completely different texture than all the other girls' outfits. And it's very Aja. It's very cute. It's very kish. It just completely embodies who Aja is. And lastly, we have Bibi Zahara Benet as Grace Jones. And I was really excited for this because I think Grace Jones has a similar demeanor at times, just a way more harsh and way more explicit with her words. And Bibi, when she first started, really embodied that, but then it kind of faded really quickly, and that's when we get more of the not really answering the question and doing something completely different, kind of losing their way. Like, I think Bibi's start was very strong, and I don't know, that may be a trend that I may have said before in previous episodes with Bibi, that she starts strong, but then it kind of fades and dwindles out pretty quickly. And that, especially on this one, it faded out pretty quickly. Bibi, by the end, did pretty bad. Not as bad as the other ones, in my opinion, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good at the end of it. Like, she looked like her. She presented herself pretty well, but there were just not a lot of comedy moments when it came to Bibi's Grace Jones. I love Bibi's runway look. Bibi, when you think of a flower look, you think a lot of different colors. And this one, she took that all away. It's all browns and blacks, and it's just gorgeous. This is such a beautiful look, and this may be one of my favorites of the week. It just goes away from the expectations that you expected from the challenge, which is a lot of beautiful different colors. You get these dark, muted colors that just look so good on Bibi, and I love this outfit. I think it's one of the best of the week. Oh, but I did almost forget Kristen Chenoweth. I don't really have a lot to say when it comes to Kristen Chenoweth, besides in relation to the flower theme of the runway. If we're gonna get a remake of every TV show, apparently, can I get a remake of Pushing Daisies? Because if a show deserves a remake, or a continuation rather, it's Pushing Daisies. Can we just retcon the entire very quickly, very rushed end that they tried to tack on that just wasn't satisfying at all and came out of completely nowhere because it was not a deserved ending? Because that story wasn't done, and we need that story to continue. Thank you and good night. Oh, and while I'm here, and before I go into the end, I know people are going to mention it because I tend to forget things a lot when I talk about the show, but I don't care about Marc Jacobs. I never cared about Marc Jacobs. I don't need to make a Marc Jacobs milk joke. Everyone else on the planet has made the joke already. Me adding the joke into my video is not going to help at all, so no, there's not going to be a Marc Jacobs milk joke. It's done. It's over with. It was done and over with by episode 1 because everyone already made that joke by the time it was episode 1. So no, we're not having that shit. oh my god, get out of my station. So we have our tops, we have our bottoms. Top 2 of the week is Shangela and Ben is completely dominating this competition. At this point in the competition, Ben cannot be in the bottom. That's just not something she can be. If she's in the bottom, she's going home. It would be stupid if you were in the top and Ben was in the bottom for you not to send home Ben. Because if you don't do that, then you're not actively trying to win the competition. You're there for the ride, you're not there for the top prize. So if you had the opportunity to send Ben home, she needs to be sent home if you are actively trying to win. If not, well, have fun with the silver medal. But the top 2 is very much deserved. Shangela and Ben were the funniest of the week, for sure. Like, I would have liked Aja to be in the top, because I think Aja did really well also, but I just preferred the top 2 being Shangela and Dela. And then the bottom 3 is Trixie, Kennedy, and Chi-Chi, which I also agree with. I do think they were the worst 3 of the week. BB could have easily been there. Aja had no chance of being there. She was too good this week. But of those 3, I think those 3 were the most deserved. And I have to say, I kind of did feel a little heartbroken with Trixie in the bottom, because the emotions were there and the emotions were real. That Trixie was very open and vulnerable, vulnerable, that thing you're supposed to be on Drag Race, apparently. It was true feelings, and it was very open, and I don't know, I felt them. I felt them in a way that I don't tend to feel with other queens that are sad about being in the bottom 3. And I feel like she kind of felt defeated from the get-go, that she was going home. Like, bottom 3 for her was a death sentence. And I can really appreciate Chi-Chi being really open and honest when she goes, it's not best friend race, it's a competition. And really just saying, send me home, without saying, send me home. Because at this point, Chi-Chi did not want to be there. Like, she just doesn't want to be there anymore. Like, she enjoys being there and she comes off so well. But she wants to go home. She's tired of being in the bottom. And she knows in herself, like, she will continue to be in the bottom because she doesn't really have the strive to win. Because she doesn't believe that she deserves to win at this point. She's been in the bottom every week. I will always fight and complain that she was in the bottom episode 2 because she did not deserve that. That Patti LaBelle was everything. But I do like that she's being very real and honest when she says, do not keep me because I'm your friend. Make the right decision. So then we have the lip sync. The lip sync for your life, which is I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry. I hate this song. And I hate Katy Perry. Can we all just agree that we don't want a Katy Perry song for a lip sync ever again? Like, despite what you may feel about whatever the lip sync itself was, I just don't want a Katy Perry song as a lip sync song. That's just, I'm putting that out there into the universe. I don't want it. I don't need it. Who wants it? No one wants it. No one cares. Like, come on. But the lip sync was pretty enjoyable. It was really fun to watch. I think Ben won it overall. Despite the results, I think Ben won it overall. I was really won over by Shangela and her Altoids. I was like, that is excellent. That's perfect. I hated Shangela's wig. I usually like wigs like that, but it was just not in this case. But I do think Ben overall just got me more in this lip sync than Shangela did. Shangela did a great job. But regardless of that, they both won the lip sync this week. And I was very confused as to why, because I don't really think it's necessary for both of them to win. I don't think it's on the same level of the Tatiana Alyssa lip sync at all, where they both won. And in this way, I don't really think it was needed because the result was the same. So we have Shangela and Ben win, and that means they each can send whoever they picked home. So Ben immediately goes, I picked Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi's going home. And it's like, okay, that's done. That makes sense. That's easy. Like, she's already picked Chi-Chi before, gave her reasoning before. Okay, I'm fine with that. And it's also Chi-Chi's time. And then we have Shangela, who is the ultimate stunt queen, who knows exactly what's happening, exactly what she's doing, who's just made for television. And she gives such a long speech about a queen who is a success after the show. And Trixie's just like, okay, I'm going home. I just didn't know that. I was like, okay, I'm going home. I knew I deserved this. Okay, I should have hung up that note. And then turns out she sent Chi-Chi home. And I was convinced. I was for sure. I was like, okay, they're both sending Chi-Chi home. But then that speech made me think that she was sending home Trixie. I was positive that she was sending home Trixie at that point, because that speech is about Trixie. That speech has to be towards Trixie, and it's like a little like, now, if I'm in a bomb, you need to save me, because this is clearly me saying, I saved you tonight. Shangela is the ultimate stunt queen. She knew exactly what she was doing, and it was amazing. It was perfect, and I just cannot with her. She just is so fucking good at bringing the drama of it all, and I live for it. I live for it all. But we do have to say goodbye to Chi-Chi, which I do think it's her time. She was in the bottom 4 times, 3 times in my book, but that's still enough for me. And she came off good in my opinion on this show. She showed what she needed to show in season 8, which is really good looks, because she did bring some comedy. She did bring charismatic personality. We already knew that we loved Chi-Chi from that, but we needed the looks in season 8, and this season she brought them, and she looked good, and she's a superstar in my eyes. She is such an amazing talent, amazing personality, and I love her. It is sad that we will never get that Chi-Chi Kennedy lip sync that I really wanted. So next week's episode, I believe, is a sewing challenge, which I'm really glad we're getting, because I was really missing that in All Stars 2. So I'm glad they at least brought a sewing challenge back at least once. I forget the theme, but we will get there when we get there next week. So that's the end of this recap for me. My name is Josh Rivers. Thank you so much for listening to the Ramblings of a Clown. You can follow me on Twitter at PixelPixelBoom. You can leave a comment below telling me your suggestions on what I should talk about in the future, RuPaul's Drag Race related or not. I would like to thank my Patreon patrons, Thomas Is Not Okay and Riley G, and all my other patrons. Thank you all so much for your support. And if you would like to become a patron, you can do so at patreon.com/pixelpixelboom, where you can get early access to these recaps in podcast form. And it also helps support the channel. I love you guys. I'll see you guys next time, and remember to have fun. Bye, guys.